And now we can dive in a little bit to some of the conception of the guitar, the beginnings, the R&D, some of the guitars that Mayer has played, because I think one of the interesting things is like, you know, how much does Mayer actually play his signature Strat? The answer is not a lot. If you're talking about this guitar, his black one, he obviously plays a lot. His Silver Sky now, he plays a lot. But how much does he play this one? The answer is not a ton. But I think you'll find some of the photos and things that we've dug up in our Mayer Sig research pretty interesting. So let's jump back now to like 2000 and, well, actually 1996 was when John acquired his SRV Stratocaster. And he describes it in the Paradise Valley video, which we can play.
I'll show you this one. This one I bought with the money that I made working at the gas station, and I traded in a Takamine 12 string and a Mesa Boogie distortion pedal, and I think I paid like 900 bucks as the difference. So I bought this in 1996, and this thing has so many little stories on it. This was replaced. I remember the day I had to order a replacement when I was in Atlanta in like 1998, 1999 maybe. I had a replacement put in there because I broke the whammy bar off in here. I got that from hitting drum cymbals with it. I thought it was really cool to hit drum cymbals. This is a picture of me and my friend Matt Mangano at Stone Mountain in 1990. That's definitely 1998. He came down to visit, and that's us from a sticker booth, and that's been on there.
Is it ready?
I took this back plate to the mall in 1997, and it says John Mayer 1997 before I went to Berkeley. I did that with the engraving gun at the Berkeley dorms, JCM. And then this is from sanding it down and playing, but mostly sanding it down with 400 grit sandpaper. This I would pick apart. I don't know if you can see, I would pick apart the lacquer. And this is the guitar that my signature model is based off of in terms of the pickups and also the neck shape. This has been in my bedroom when I was 19, practicing guitar playing, and Madison Square Garden and Tokyo and television shows. And I mean, it's like, this is the representation of all the places I've been, is that it's been on this guitar. This guitar started in my bedroom when I had just gotten out of high school.
But what he mentions is he bought it in 1996. He was a big SRV fan. You see the kind of came with the black pickguard with the SRV initials on it. And one of the first things he does was swapped out the pickguard for a tortoiseshell guard. The picture on the left here is from probably like 2002, 2003 time frame of him playing that guitar. I think some interesting things is to identify the SRV Stratocaster. It has the signature on the headstock like Justin has showed. It also has gold hardware with the reverse lefty bridge trem system in it. So you'll notice in the picture and also in what Justin is showing, the trem hole is on the top if you're a righty player with the gold hardware. This was Mayer's #1 for a long time. As we discussed, it had those messed up Texas Special pickups in it that gave it the scooped sound that led to the Big Dippers. But this really was the inspiration, especially in the color, for Mayer to create his own signature Strat.
Exactly, that's the blueprint in terms of the color scheme for it. That's that in those early years you think of John's playing a Strat, a Sunburst, actually a quite dark Sunburst with a tortoise pickguard that we also know that is one of his favorite combinations. Also, I don't think we ever had, maybe there isn't, a picture of John with the SRB with the stock pickguard, right?
I don't think so. I think he put that tortoise guard on in the 90s.
Way before every camera,
before he started,
every show, everything
being popular. Yeah, we can try to find maybe like the oldest picture in the archive of him playing this guitar and see if we can dig up some photos.
And that's also a statement of him saying, okay, I love SRB. I'm the biggest fan in the world, but still I want to play my own guitar in a way. Because having this huge SRV thing here is, I don't know, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I think there's two ways you go about it. You either go like John did and kind of make it your own, or you kind of go like this one I have here, and I got the exact like right from Earth 3, the exact same Strat brand that SRV even used and stuff. And I think with a guitar like this that's so heavily SRV branded, you either commit to being true to Stevie Ray Vaughan or the artist, or you kind of do a John thing and you kind of try and pull away from it a little bit, which you can see even in his own right when he went to building his first signature guitar, that he already wasn't a big fan of the massive branding of the artist.
Yep.
It's interesting to talk about this guitar as well. The speckle pattern on this pickguard, I really think like kind of set in motion. Like you notice that, you know, especially with the Sunburst Sig models that, you know, we have, like it's a kind of a different, like it's more that dark, really small speckle pattern. And I'm not wondering if, like, you know, I don't know where he got that pickguard from, if that kind of influenced kind of what he was going for in terms of the color palette with his actual signature model.
You could be forgiven from afar to confuse the guitar, like the picture of it that he's got there when he's holding it, with a Sig model of his, if you didn't see it close enough up to discern the color of the hardware.
On the John Mayer Gear page, I get people often write, "That's not the 64, that's his SRV," or "That's not the SRV, that's the John Mayer signature," and it's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah. Clearly, he likes the Sunburst tortoise color scheme.
Exactly.
So one of the interesting things is, like, so he had this SRV Stratocaster from '96. You know, he played it as his #1 guitar in his early days as he was coming up, and you know, really starting to play electric guitar in his live shows. But actually, the first inkling of an a Mayer Sig Strat was July 2003.
Here we go.
And John plays this gold guitar with these red racing stripes on it. Now, it's an interesting looking guitar. He probably found it and thought, that's actually a really cool, you know, putting racing stripes on a guitar. There's obviously the guitar's colors matching to car colors, and the racing stripe is a very much a car thing. And he actually started playing this guitar in July 2003. And we started looking at it, doing some research, digging into it a bit. Something interesting is it definitely was kind of beat up in ways. You can see from where the light is shining in this photo from September of 2003. It actually has a bunch of dings in it. Maybe before he got it, maybe this was, you know, maybe it's a nitro body guitar. The exact origins of this guitar are not well known. I mean, some people might say, hey, that's probably just a custom shop guitar or a master built version of his signature model. Truth is, it's also the guitar that became synonymous with Bigger Than My Body when he wrote that song and started playing it in the Heavier Things tour, and also in his Bigger Than My Body actual music video, he plays that guitar. And if you are able to pause in the Bigger Than My Body video, you'll notice that there are no markings on the back of this headstock.
If you look at that picture that you just had previously on the slideshow, you'll notice too, it's a hardtail, guys.
What? I didn't even notice that.
That
Nice.
What kind of, that doesn't even look like to me a standard. Something looks wonky with that bridge.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a traditional
hardtail. That's bizarre.
It almost kind of looks to me like, you know, the G&L bridges that they have. It doesn't quite look like that, but it looks a little. Maybe it's just the angle, but it looks a little like curved, or something's weird with.
See, that's why this show is great. We all got the prize right here.
Great minds come together, man. Everybody.
Chandler, great spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, here's another interesting thing. This is September 2003. Look at the knobs it has on it.
Yeah,
I just saw that.
It's got the amp knobs on it. One thing that you'll notice too, that I want to point out, if I bring the production CFM with the same pattern. The racing stripe pattern is a little different. It's actually it's thicker in the middle here and thinner on the sides, and then it's a little more balanced in the red on that guitar.
It's interesting, and I've owned a couple of these. Fender Japan, like in the late '90s and early 2000s, was doing a lot of racing stripe. They did a version with the stripe in this position. They did a stripe position up on the upper arm, which is one I had. That one had a small headstock reversed, which was really cool. That was white with Lake Placid racing stripe. That was really cool. But around that era, like they were doing a lot of really funky stuff. But like you were pointing out, it's pretty beat. It's hard to tell. It could be nitro. It could just be like an old mutt that someone refinished.
Yeah, and I mean, you would expect John to be playing custom shop and master built guitars even at this time, other than his signature, and to zoom in even in the Bigger Than My Body video and see no logos on the back of the headstock. Chandler, I agree with you. I think this could be a Japanese Strat from the early 2000s that he just thought was cool.
And he's, he loves Japan. Fender Japan has done some of the coolest runs of guitars that we never even get to see. They live as, phantoms, on Reverb and eBay Japan, Yahoo Japan auctions, where you see, these crazy guitars like, 1-for-1 replicas of the Charlie Stratocaster with 2 knobs, and like these crazy small headstock flipped stuff, racing stripes galore, and really vintage accurate stuff that, we really don't get to see. Nowadays Fender, US has kind of upped their game and is, kind of leading the charge, but it's really interesting to see, and dive down that rabbit hole. During my younger days, I would do that all the time because you could still access the Fender Japan website, and it was different. It was a completely different, address and everything before Fender merged all their URLs to one global site. So I would just go through and like Google Translate and be like, oh, what model is this?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is interesting because there are a lot of elements you see here that went into the signature Strat, right? Everyone just thinks it's an iteration of the SRV. But I mean, look at this guitar with racing stripes, with the amp knobs. Obviously, didn't go hardtail with it, which is a great spot by Chandler. But this is an interesting guitar. I mean, no logo on the back of the headstock. Well, I think a lot of people don't know that guitar for a while was this unbranded or maybe Fender Japan model.
Yeah. It could also be. What about the debate on whether or not that also could be the beginnings of a prototype? Let's get into that a little bit more too.
Yeah,
I mean,
prototypes.
We can talk about prototypes a bit. So this is right. We're looking at photos July 2003, September 2003. Bigger Than My Body came out with Heavier Things in the September 2003 time too. So it's still 2003. Mayor's playing this guitar. He's probably starting the conversations with Fender about maybe a signature model, right? Maybe. We don't know. We don't know exactly when they the next photo I'm going to show you is a personal photo of mine from late December 2003. So a few months later in the same year, I got to see John open for Buddy Guy and play with Double Trouble at Irving Plaza in New York City. And this guitar came out. And I remember taking a bunch of pictures of it and looking at my photos after that night going, that's the coolest color and racing stripe guitar that I've ever seen. And I had never seen it before. I went back in the photo archives of obviously a lot of our pictures. Special thanks to Getty Images for providing a lot of our photos this evening. But I couldn't find him playing this guitar anytime before the December 2003 shows. So if anybody knows of any photos before that, hey, hit us up. But Alejandro posted on John Mayer Gear and you'll become Insta famous. But let us know if you have any photos. But this guitar showed up, as far as we know, at these two shows with Buddy Guy at the end of 2003. Funny little anecdote here. I got obsessed with this guitar. I was in high school. I had no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to try building a guitar. Obviously, there wasn't the type of information out there that exists today, but I went and I bought an alder body and a neck. And because there was no like good photos or other than what I had, I brought this photo to Home Depot and I asked them to color mix paint for me to paint my guitar body with. and I used a paintbrush and I painted the guitar. I taped off racing stripes, because I loved that charcoal color. And then I put the neck on, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I wired it up. I just like put some parts together, and it didn't work. I think there was some weird thing. It just was like the strings, the neck was all bent or something, or I had totally screwed something. I had no idea what I was doing.
So you put it in the freezer.
So I put it in the freezer, and then the next morning I woke up and it just came to life, and it worked magically.
Them freezer guitar fairies.
But so, you know, this guitar, again, it's similar to the Racing Stripe. I will reveal this. It is a custom shop guitar. So he probably had it made. And he probably said, I like this gold version with these red stripes. Can you make me one like that? But let's just make it different colors. He chooses charcoal and the silver racing stripes. And a lot of people, as we talked about, they equate, you know, Mayer Protos and his signature development with Chris Fleming. But guess what, guys? That guitar is built by John Cruz.
Are you serious?
Yep. And here's how we know. So a few years later...
This is what you were going on about with the signature. Oh, my God, like a month ago.
So a few years later, Cruz, there was been a bunch of John's gear from different tours posted in Japanese magazines. And actually, Alejandra and I were digging in. And if you look at when the CFM was posted in both of these magazines, translated, John Mayer signature model by master builder at the Fender custom shop, John Cruz. The stripes shine in pale blue, and he got it about 2 years ago. That was a 2006 photo. And then the second one, which was, I think, Alejandro, maybe 2008, was that? That was
Summer,
2008,
yes.
Right? Also, the Japanese in this magazine says, built by master builder John Cruz at the Fender custom shop, the John Mayer signature Strat. It was made around 2004, which is accurate. It's actually late 2003. Small headstock, spaghetti logo, slab board, rosewood fingerboard, 6062 specifications were used. Competition stripes shine, again, in pale or in metallic blue, they called it this time. Interestingly, they're actually Inca silver, but
It looks nothing like blue.
translated to blue. So two magazines now say this was built by John Cruz. And I have obviously been obsessed with this guitar since I saw it in 2003. I couldn't believe it. I always thought it was a Fleming master built. He worked with Fleming on the Protos.
The timeline
It had to
makes
be
sense.
a Fleming.
Yeah.
But Cruz had just become a master builder in 2003, and he built this guitar for John. And I will tell you, another John Mayer Gear Lounge exclusive, I emailed John Cruz and got a response. And he said, yes,
shit.
I built that guitar for John a long time ago. And so confirmation from the man himself that he actually did build that guitar for John. Which is very interesting because a lot of people obviously equate the Cruz-John partnership or JM partnership with the black one, which happened in the 2004 timeframe. But his first Cruz actually was the CFM.
That's amazing.
And now,
So we know that
yeah, go
his
ahead. Bud.
partnership with John Cruz started out with at least this. Not even.
Not even the black.
Yeah, I'm blown away because that kind of skews the whole timeline that we all like to think of his relationship with Fender and the master builders. This drives a huge wedge in between him, like you said, designing the John Mayer Sig with Chris Fleming, then the first real prototype kind of thing gets built by John Cruz. If that was
Wait,
Chris Fleming, I would
there's
have kind of
more.
been like, oh God, here we go.
Oh, we're just getting warmed up, guys. This is the.
Yes, this is
we're just
barely,
getting warmed up.
barely the beginning.
So all of a sudden, when we discovered this in the research, a few things started to click. Right, I'm obsessed with this guitar. I know the performances. He played it for Gravity in the 2006 Continuum release show at Webster Hall, which I think people have seen online. And also the same day he performed Gravity on Conan with the same guitar. And that guitar sounded so good in those performances. It was like, oh my God, that does not sound like a Mayer Sig. It sounds really good. Those are tones that people watch and rewatch over and over again. And it all started to make sense. Okay, maybe if John Cruz built this model, then maybe it was had custom pickups that were maybe a little more Black One SRV number 1-esque and less Big Dippers, which is why he played it for Gravity in 2006, which was interesting. Although I'm going to throw a wrench in that with the next couple of slides. What I then noticed, being somebody who's obsessed, like we all are, let's look at the guitar that he played in 2003, the picture that I took on the top left, a 2004 picture on the right, and also the Chappelle Show, which we know he played that CFM in the Chappelle Show. Look at the headstock specifically, which I'm calling out. There are a couple things to notice. One is the decal. The Fender decal is a lot darker than the color of the headstock, right? And you can actually see that in all three photos. This was something that Fender was playing with, I think, in that time, and actually is pretty common in a lot of cruise builds.
Yeah, it's
so
very
I think that
intrinsic
maxed
build.
out.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the things that I think that is really interesting is, where is the placement of the string tree? We like to talk about string trees in the John Mayer Sig Strat episode. Look at actually the placement of that string tree. It is below the A tuner peg on the headstock. Now, you can't look at your Mayer Sig, Justin, because that one is way up, but that's a bit lower than normal placement. And so you can see, though, in all three of these, there's Chandler.
Yeah,
there we
where
go.
it's about equal with the A peg there. So this one is a little bit lower, which you notice. And actually, we went into the photos and said, let's look at, okay, we can confirm these three photos are the same guitar. They have the tinted logo. They have the string tree slightly below the A peg. And then we started to look at photos later in his career, like that Conan performance in 2006 and the Japanese magazine in 2008. Wait a second. The string tree now, it looks like it's above the A peg. The decal is no longer tinted, and the headstock has a bit of flame in it. This is a different guitar. This is a different guitar. It's a second version. So there are actually two versions of the CFM Mayer Sig. The first one that he played at the show that I went to, and on the Chappelle Show, and during 2004, 2005 timing. And the first version of what we're calling the V2 CFM was 2006. So he gets another one built, and this is the one he plays Gravity with in 2006. So my theory is he got this one sometime in 2006, but the first picture or performance of it was the Conan Gravity performance, recorded the same day as the Webster Hall show. So the next question then is, if Cruz built the first one, who built the second one? And I have scoured through a lot of photos and video to try to find a visible version of the Master Builder decal, and I haven't found one. So this is a challenge to everyone in the John Mayer Gear Lounge. If you can find a shot of Mayer playing a CFM and a decipherable Master Builder signature, send me a picture, post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram, let's see it. But in that Japanese guitar mag, if you remember from the photo, there was a shot of the back of his guitar. So I zoomed in a little bit, and guess what? It's not really that visible, unfortunately. But I'm going to let you guys take a look and see what you think. So
we tried really hard to get that really close up in there.
I remember when we were talking about this like a month ago, more longer than that.
Yep. So what I've done is I've blown up the photo a bit and also put examples of the Cruz Master Builder decal and the Fleming Master Builder decal. Now, one of the things you'll say is, oh, that's got to be a Cruz. It's got numbers above the signature. You see the Cruz on the left, he's very well known for putting his serial number above his Master Builder decal on the back of the headstock. Fleming is actually not well known for doing that at all, right? So, hey, it looks like a Cruz.
Yep.
However, to me, I mean, what I'm looking at is when we get into the next kind of versions of the guitar, he actually, Mayer has put, Fleming actually put Proto above his decal, which we'll see in a little bit more detail in a minute. So it could say Proto on it. It could be a prototype that Fleming built. To me, I see CW in the first half of that signature.
Yeah.
My theory is that Cruz built the first one, and then Fleming, who was well known for doing the protos, and we'll talk about it in a second, built the second one. Although in the guitar magazines published in Japan, they had pictures of this guitar, and in both of them said master built by John Cruz. So, boys, what do you think? Also, let us know in the comments, which one do you think it is? I've had people say both when they look at this photo.
It's definitely hard. Like I would say, you know, and he, looking at, you know, a lot of like the little intricacies of, you know, that first one, like, you know, the really shaded decal, you know, those are very kind of, you know, big identifiers of like, you know, John's work. I personally I've been leaning more towards this being a Fleming just from the timing, you know, this being around the same, you know, just after, you know, Fleming built JM1 and JM2 for him to use. And maybe, you know, based off of feedback of playing those two, he's like, you know what, I like, you know, what you're doing with these. How about you build me a charcoal frost in that kind of, you know, in that kind of style that you've been doing with JM1 and JM2. That, and then, you know, just kind of, you know, the lack of decal shading, you know, even the string tree thing, you know, I was kind of, after we had that conversation, I was kind of looking at a couple different Flemings, and if you look at some builds from around that time, you know, especially like his early 60s stuff, he was kind of sticking them in that general ballpark. I don't know. That's just one, you know, theory I'm throwing out there into the ether, and make of it what you want. Any of you guys? What do you guys think?
I say both are Cruz, but I don't know. It's the way the guitar sounds on those Gravity performances. There's something to it. It sounds really good. In fact, if you go up on YouTube and search for that Webster Hall video, it even says like SRV solo or something. It has something to it that it's really different from John Mayer Signature's Strats. There's something with version 2. So but again, we don't know for sure.
What do you think, Justin?
When we first started talking about this, to me, it looked like a Fleming. And I'm looking at it with a bit more of an open mind now that we know that Cruz did, in fact, build one of these instead of it just being the original one throughout. But I'm still seeing, like Tommy, my eyes see a C, then it's not the traditional Fleming signature. It looks slightly off, but to me, it looks closer to a CWF than a John Cruz logo, because if you look at the spacing, there'd have to be a lot more spacing between the first kind of swiggle and where you can discern there's the other one kind of near the middle. There need to be, to me, a lot more spacing, because the C in the John Cruz logo is on kind of the one arm shooting out from the Fender logo, where on the Fleming, it's on the inside, more left-hand one. And to me, the F is on the left-hand side. And that would indicate more words after that larger signature. So the F being Fleming instead of short being Cruz. So that's my logic for still believing this one is a Fleming.
Cool. So let us know what you think. All right. So now let's take us back. We remember we're in the 2004 time frame, right? That's when we saw some of these CFMs start to appear, and he started playing in late 2003, early 2004. Now let's take a look at this guitar, March 2004. Oh, that's Mayer's Burgundy Mist. I think if you're a real nerd, you know about that one. It's a Burgundy Mist Strat that was Relic that he played for a while, has a SRV music note strap. Performing it here in March 2004, and then also in June 2004. Here's a good picture of that relicing on the armware. And you're asking me, like, why is the Burgundy Mist in the Mayer Sig episode? Why? Well, let's zoom in a little bit on the headstock.
Boom.
Wait a second. There's a John Mayer signature on the front of the headstock of the Burgundy Mist Strat. What?
So that's 100% a prototype.
So it's a relic. It's got his signature on the front. Although the thing that I find interesting is that actually the signature that you see here on the screen looks like the production Mayer Sig decal. It's not like he just signed the front of a guitar for whatever. It looks like the same decal.
Yeah, it does.
It's identical.
Let me see here.
It's identical.
Because his signature, I have a few pieces that I just bought signed by Mayer, and none of them, they all look similar, but definitely not as neat entirely.
They're all
So-
a little different, yeah.
That one I'm seeing, so like the production decal has more of a scoop on the R on the end of it, whereas you look at that one, it's definitely more of a straight Z. So yeah, so everybody grab yours. Everybody, I'm glad we all have one on hand.
Yeah, the
R
start
is
of the
different.
J too
Oh yeah, maybe
Yeah.
a little different.
shoots out way more. It's into the R instead of kind of the Y, I think it is.
Yeah.
So it looks almost like an early prototype of the decal
Yeah.
signature that was used.
So that's an interesting one too. And I was like, well, maybe Fleming built him a master built Strat, right? And like this was a prototype around that time, or some master builder built him something. Nope. It's just
Team
a
built.
regular custom shop team built Strat. What? What is this Burgundy guitar? How does it fit into the Mayer Sig lineup? What the
3 springs too.
No plate on the back either. No screw holes
Yeah.
for a plate.
There
Yeah,
were
3
screw holes. You can see them.
Yeah,
but
there
you
are
took
screw
them- you
holes.
took
You can
them
see
out.
screw holes. Three springs.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I
So
get
this
for
is-
being this far
This
back
is
on
a
my
weird
computer.
one, right? 2004, he's developed, in the R&D phase, he's got a relic Burgundy Strat that he starts playing for a few things. There's a few performances of this guitar, which we'll maybe, if we can, show a little bit of video of him playing that guitar. But signature on the front, which we know he decided not to do, right?
Mhm.
That was an initial. This is the first time actually the signature appeared. His signature appears on any guitar.
Anything. Yeah.
Was at least I could see in this kind of March 2004 performance. Weird, right? So maybe Mayer was thinking, maybe my signature guitar is a relic. He has a team built guitar made, slaps his signature decal on there. It's a weird one. I think Fender might have said, a production run relic is not doable.
This was before the
limited
Road Warn
run.
program. Yeah.
Before Road Warns existed, maybe he was trying to think of doing a custom one, a one-off, or a limited run. But what? The Mayer signature on this Burgundy guitar? That's something I had never known before we went down this rabbit hole.
And this guitar has been seen a lot. He used that guitar heavily during Heavier Things tour
Yep.
and those performances. It wasn't a one-off for him in terms of use. And we all let that go by. We were like, oh, this is just another guitar he was using around those days. There's nothing weird about this guitar.
That's
Tommy.
even a weirder.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's all on Tommy. Tommy was the one who
Yeah.
It's a function, I think, of a number of things. One is like cameras were not that good in 2004.
True.
Video quality that's been uploaded to YouTube is not that good, right? So we wouldn't have spotted this unless like you go down the Getty image rabbit hole of finding high quality pictures like this. Because I think it was this picture that I looked at and then I zoomed in on the headstock and it was just like immediately texting Alejandro and like mind blown emojis flying all over the place.
It was wild.
So I'm
It
just
still
trying to
is.
wrap my mind around again because because we have the whole in your mind what we have known to be the production process for the Mayor Sig. Now there's a custom shop with Ware and his signature on the front, and it's team built. So it's not like, again, we have crews building him another prototype to maybe mess around with, or guitar frame to use on stage that eventually became the heavy inspiration for the production Sig. This is something totally out there in terms of all of the production.
I have a theory on it too. Maybe this was like a neck sample. Maybe they built this guitar as just a, another, hey, this is another variation. I want you to try this. Maybe it was more of a V shape, or maybe it was more of a D, oval C, etc. Maybe they're still fine tuning stuff. So instead of, slapping a new neck onto one of the Flemings, there's like, hey, what do you think of this too? Hey, what do you think of Relic? Or maybe it's like, I want to try something, a different color like Burgundy Mist and maybe beat it up a bit.
There's no question it's a prototype for his Mayor signature. Like, he wouldn't put his signature with in a decal form on something that wasn't at least a prototype.
And maybe they were fine tuning it. They're Fender and Gibson, they do like artist proofs and stuff like that. When they're fine tuning something, to get an artist to sign off on certain things, whether it's the neck, the body, pickups, et cetera, et cetera. This guitar could have been maybe a test bed, But
yeah, maybe the body, and then it's that's very. I like that idea a lot, Chandler. Actually, it makes sense. It's kind of a custom shop body that maybe John was like, oh yeah, do me something around the lines of that. Like, don't stress out about it as much. I want to play it for a while, and I just want to. This is just for the neck itself, maybe, or something.
Something else, yeah.
Very much. I mean, another interesting thing too is if you look at this photo, the neck's not relicked either.
Yeah.
I know that. The relicking at the custom shop has gotten crazy in the last like 10 years, but this was
could have been a closet
time.
classic too, and he just wore through it. I mean, we know how hard he plays. I mean, case in point, look at the black one, in 04 when he got it, that white patch on it didn't exist, as hard as he plays and everything, he could have just worn through that spot. It could have been nitro, and he just sweated through that arm wear.
And I want to call out my buddy Danny, who sent me these photos. He had them in his archive on his computer. So that was an interesting reveal too, that it was a team-built guitar. The mystery of the Burgundy Mist.
Yeah,
that's just it's a unique look.
Mystery.
Burgundy Mystery.
I'm still just my mind's still trying to process. Okay,
that's right. All right, Justin, I'm going to bring you back a little bit to a design we all know and feel comfortable with. All right, so we're back to the Sunburst, the Tortoise. This is a picture from July 2004. Here is a guitar that it's not the SRV Strat, right? At that time, most people probably just thought it was his SRV. Looks like it, right? But no SRV Strat signature on the headstock. Regular righty trem. The nickel hardware, not the gold. So interesting. This could be one of the first versions of a prototype for the Mayor Sig. Same month, couple other performances. One thing I forgot to point out. Look at the string tree position on this one. Normal Fender string tree location, right?
Yeah.
So not a production Mayor Sig, normal string tree. Same month, he's also using another guitar, same tortoiseshell pickguard Sunburst. But look at the string tree. All of a sudden, the same month, or I guess maybe also July, we have a higher string tree come up. A couple months later, October 2004, he plays the same guitar with a higher string tree. And look, hey, we get a picture of the back of the headstock.
There it is.
And we have two decals. Looks like a Mayor Sig decal on the end and a Master Builder decal in that triangle dip on the back of the headstock. And this isn't like super breaking news, but Mayor had two protos made. I think Chandler mentioned them earlier, that were Chris Fleming master built guitars. Yep. Fleming put the words Proto 001 and Proto 002 on them. One of them, he actually, I think, Alejandro, you correct me, he gave to Chris Fleming, right?
Yep.
Yes, he gave it back to him.
he gave it back to him, and then it made its way into the world market and was actually being sold by this website that used to have a lot of Mayer gear called FenderReissue.com. And this was Proto number 2 when it was for sale on Fender Reissue. The website doesn't exist anymore. If you are the guy or gal behind Fender Reissue and you're still a Mayer fan and a nerd like all of us, reach out. I'd love to know your story and how you got your hands on all of these guitars. But what you can see here is, the Mayer signature on the end of the headstock, the CW Fleming, the word Proto, and JM002. You'll also notice that this one has the regular string tree location. So this is most likely number 2 had the string tree in the normal location, and Proto number 1, which we see here, which obviously the back of this headstock looks identical to the back of this headstock from what we can tell, right? But this higher string tree means that this might be, in all intents and purposes, Proto 001 with the higher string tree.
And there's a bit of a variation in the speckle pattern I've always noticed between the two guitars.
That's right. We'll get to that too.
Oh, sorry.
No, all good. And then another one, November 2005, an interesting Sunburst guitar appeared with a tortoiseshell pickguard. Although we get a back shot. Thank you, Getty Images, and Dimitrios Kambouris, who took this photo of JM and Alicia Keys in November 2005. This one has no Mayer signature on it. It just has a Fleming decal on it. It's a Fleming master-built guitar, although I bring it into this discussion because looks like a Mayer Sig to me, but it's definitely a different version.
On the Sunburst, it's almost more like his 64. It's the really wide CBS era Sunburst on it with the really washed out yellow.
Another thing about this guitar, this is a theory of mine, although it's not a big deal. There's a bigger than my body performance on the Today Show, which we can cut in a little video of.
This is a count on the colorblind. This is now you. Thank you so much.
It appears similar to this guitar, but it has a normal white pickguard. Part of me was wondering if actually he had a master-built Fleming with a white pickguard, and he threw a tortoiseshell guard on there to make it more Mayer-esque, and it was just a master-built Fleming Sunburst that he liked. You can also notice on this pickguard too, as Chandler pointed out, in the other pickguards, this one is a little more brown, a little less speckled. It could have even been something he bought online and just threw on this guitar.
You can tell that when he found his 64, he just fell in love, because that's clearly his favorite. And he's come out and said it too. That's his favorite spec burst
color
on tortoiseshell guard.
Another very famous performance is Heart of Life, Where the Light Is. He uses a Mayer Sig S guitar. And actually, if you are obsessed like we are and you zoom in, to me, that looks like a Proto. So this is now 2007. It's got a Master Builder logo on the in that dip on the back of the headstock and a Mayer Sig on the end of the headstock. So let's look at all of these guitars together and start thinking of things like string tree, how the backs look, and speckle pattern on the pick guards. So what I've deciphered from looking at all of those things is Proto 1 is a higher string tree, has the Master Builder decal and the Mayer Sig with the Proto language on it. This is actually also the same guitar he played for Where the Light Is, Heart of Life.
Heart of Life, yeah.
Still playing Proto number 1 a few years later in December 2007 for that concert. That first guitar I showed you, which looked like a Mayer Sig, but had the lower string tree, actually is Proto number 2 and matches the one that was sold on Fender Reissue, which you see the back of it from the Fender Reissue listing. So he was playing Proto number 2 on stage as well around the same time. So he's played both of them. And then on the right, you see the Fleming guitar, which is a Master Builder. That's a little bit, of an outlier, but still looks very much like a Mayer Sig. Cool, right?
I knew the Where the Light is Heart of Life one was a proto, but I never made the connection from it being that prototype from that far back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool that that still stayed in the vault as a guitar he occasionally
I
brought
think
out.
I think he still owns it too. I believe.
Yeah,
As far
I
as
mean,
I know.
he occasionally will whip out a Mayer Sig Strat to play. Usually, Heart of Life is a very common guitar he'll play that on, since it's tuned to E flat, and if he has a Sunburst in the rig, he likes to play it on that. But cool to see the Proto played at Where the Light is, and you know, somewhere Proto number 2 is out there. Somebody has it.
Someone's got it.
Someone's got it.
Man.
So that's a little bit of Sunburst history. Now let's talk a little bit, just real quick, about the Shoreline Gold. I have a magazine here. If you've all seen this photo, and we can also put up a super high res photo. This was a good interview. This magazine came out. I don't even know the date on it. February 2006, and has Mayer's signature Shoreline Gold with the red racing stripes across the top. Kind of cool interview in this magazine. And then if you go into the magazine, what you actually see is he took it apart for this stylistic photo shoot and is holding the guitar, showing you the Master Builder decal on the back of it. So the one that you see him holding here is a Fleming Master Build. It does not have any Proto markings on it. But the decals are in the same place as the Protos. So a little insight into, that's a picture of the actual magazine that I luckily had and was able to see that his Shoreline Gold, you can see the racing stripe is more like the actual Sig, and not that gold guitar he had before that maybe is a Japan model.
That's cool.
That's super cool. I've never seen that. I mean, I've seen the article, but I never really, never really noticed that detail. That's awesome.
So we know that Fleming built him, this guitar at some point, probably when the Shoreline Gold was chosen as a color to launch with for that model. Now let's talk about Chandler's favorite, the Cypress Mica. So this olive green marine or military green color came out in 2007. This is an image from Where the Light Is, and Mayer is playing Good Love Is on the Way with the trio playing the Cypress Mica in this shot. So that was December 2007. And one thing that's very interesting about this guitar too is from the look on the back of it that you see on the left side of your screen, or even the top here, it's got no custom shop markings on it. It has a little sticker on it that he had on it for a while, which is interesting. I think in Where the Light Is, you see that same sticker on when it swings, the camera swings around back, although it's kind of super blurry.
Probably like a stock thing for his inventory,
Yeah, something for that. But interestingly, also the neck got super relicked at some point. I mean, that relicking that you see there is not, I don't think that's natural relicking. So he wanted it smoothed down to be like his other guitars at some point. And the reason I have 2012 in these photos on the right here is he auctioned off this, if it was either auctioned or it was a contest, but for charity in 2012, he actually gave away this guitar. So there were a bunch of photos posted of it with that relic neck, no, Master Builder decal on it. However, one of the coolest photos from that 2012 listing was the inside of the pick guard. What? We never get to see the inside of Mayer's pick guard. This was the inside of the Cypress Mica that he sold, that it was stage played by Mayer. And you'll see, if you look at these pickups, the top left says Mayer on them. The bottom left of the pickup says C.W. Fleming. So in all intents and purposes, Chris Fleming actually might have hand wound these pickups himself. Usually a pickup winder will sign their name on what they're winding, although you never know. It could have been wound by Abby Ybarra. It could have been wound by somebody else in the shop, and Fleming name got put on them because it was going to a guitar in Mayer's. You'll also notice that it's May 29th, 2007 was when they were wound. So around the time of the development of the Cypress Mica guitar, which launched in the middle
Prototype,
of 2007.
Yeah.
And then also pickup readings. Yes, for a pickup obsessed person like me. Interesting that I see like, although 6.16 on the middle and 6.13 on the bridge are really legible. I've always wondered if the neck is 6.04 or 6.34.
That almost looks like a 5 to me, even.
Exactly.
Could be a 5.
It looks a bit like a 5.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, normally neck pickups are wound less
little
than
lower.
bridge,
Yeah.
in the
Lower.
middle. So I was thinking maybe it's 6.04, but it's interesting, right? So this is like a master. I thought, when you look at the guitar here, you're like, oh, it's just a production Mayer Sig, right? No, it's got hand-wound
isn't.
special pickups just for John.
If
And
whoever bought this guitar owns it and never sees this and is maybe thinking of selling it, out of all the guitars Mayer has played on stage besides the black one and the 64, this is the guitar I would die to own. For me, when I first discovered John, Good Love Is on the Way is always a performance that just that intro riff and everything he did really, it just clicked with me. And when I discovered that he had sold off that guitar from that performance, that always kind of became the grail of mine to, I was like, oh my God, if I would have known that much sooner, I might have been able to go and try and buy it. But on the off chance, a couple years down the road, the person who owns this guitar decides they might be tempted to sell it, hit me up, because I would probably sell off some stuff in my collection to own this guitar.
Yeah. Understandable.
I can't imagine a Mayer stage played and owned guitar would go for very cheap these days. But
hence why I said I'd sell off some of my collection.
like
to
your
fund
house.
You got a good stash. Yeah. Like.
But yeah, I think that's cool. It's interesting to see pickup numbers when the Cypress Mica again came out a few years after the Mayer Sig launch, right? So what are these pickups? Clearly a specific hand wound something for John that went into the Cypress Mica.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's
So
a cool guitar.
then the last color we know is the black one. This is one that came out alongside the Cruise 83s, as we mentioned. There's a cool video of Mayer talking about this guitar that we can play now. But a couple screenshots from it you see here, checking it out. It was on stage. He played it in that 2010 tour a bunch. There's also a video, I didn't take a screenshot because the quality was so low, but there was a Ustream Live backstage tour actually at Jones Beach. And I was at that show actually that summer. But he, that's when he received it and he was kind of sound checking with that guitar.
Voodoo Child, right?
Yeah. And that photo on the right, I believe, was actually potentially from that show, that video. Was when he was playing that guitar. So this was that NOS BLK1 Mayer Sig spec, other than the gold hardware, black finish, but Big Dipper pickups, and Mayer was kind of promoting it at the same time as the launch of the Cruise. Here's a couple more photos, high-res photos from our buddy Alex, who
much love to Alex.
Has this black one is currently for sale,
Buy it.
or might have been sold.
Buy it.
By the time you're watching this video, this guitar might have been sold.
If it hasn't,
but
please buy it.
Yeah.
it's a cool guitar, cool spec. Kind of the grand finale of the Mayer Sig in 2010.
The swan
before
song.
the relationship
Yeah.
ended.
I just remembered there's a video on John's YouTube channel where he announces the project of doing the Cruise and the NOS, and he says something like 83 master build, and I might be quoting. He says like unlimited for a year for the NOS.
Yeah.
And that did not end up happening. It was the limited
500.
edition.
Yeah.
500, yeah.
So
I think that was this video of him on the couch, right?
Maybe it was
think that's
it
it,
was a video like that. He was talking about so the early plan for the NOS was like a year run of those. At least really back then for that NOS guitar.
That's wild.
So guys, that's it. That's the Mayor Sig Strat.
That's the journey.
It's a journey. Some
And that's
interesting
just-
kind of developments in the early R&D stages. Hopefully kind of were some learned things that you hadn't heard before.
A lot of new information. I think a lot of really cool light has been shed on, kind of the underbelly of this project that not too many, I think, really either just paid attention to or really knew the inner workings of, and that's some amazing detective work on you and Alejandro's part, and really kind of cracking this thing wide open.
And
I'm still floored.
If the price of the Mayor Sig goes up even more after this video, please don't blame us.
This video is in no way legally binding, I think, as Bonamassa says.
Yeah, we're going to put up
Yeah.
some legal disclaimers on the screen about the price of this guitar.
I'm
really
just-
cool 'cause
Go ahead,
before-
Alejandro.
Before this research, the official word from everyone in the lounge was that there were those two Fleming prototypes, and that's it. That's the official word if you ask any of us.
Wrong.
And
That's it. That's right.
exactly, we all got that wrong. Everyone.
I'm still
And that's
floored
cool.
that there's a custom shop Fleming prototype that Burgundy missed. Because I remember watching when I first discovered JM, especially thinking, oh yeah, that's a cool like kind of Burgundy custom shop Strat he's got there, and like you
You don't
say,
see
Team
that
built.
out
That was
there.
team built.
yeah,
That's weird.
yeah, team built too, which is just it's so weird, and it goes to show if he played that guitar live, what prototypes and what wacky stuff were they testing and development behind closed doors that we never got to see.
It makes you wonder, right?
It does.
Not unlike the Silver Skies he's playing today, right? Where they're
it's true.
always tweaking. There's, John is, as we all know, likes to have gear that no one can have. Even though he's come out with 20 signature things in his career, you either have to have a lot of money, and even if you do and you buy something with his name on it, he probably is playing something different on stage.
I think Shigeru Kuma, I think he's the only person I think we could say that actually manages to have almost everything outside of like the one-off stuff like that,
Shout out to him.
Yeah, dude.
Continuing
Dude, we
museum
love
is
you, man.
insane.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
Video
looking at this
continue.
picture, can you also think of, even in the past 10 years, a guitar player, like an artist, who's had a better looking run of signature Fenders? I mean,
And that much of an impact in that short of a time as
Yeah.
well. Like, I mean, you think about, iconic, guitars and iconic, artists associated with them, like the Clapton, the
I think the
Stevie Ray.
Clapton comes close. There's a lot of cool
for
colors.
sure.
And
Yeah.
hey, that
But-
guy
but
actually
in terms
plays
of-
his signature guitar on
Yeah,
stage.
but that, and just like, but if you look at John's, and that condensed amount of time, 10 to whatever, 14 years run of making these, guitars, and just the lasting impact that it's had on so many people, everybody from, your average Joe to, people like Shawn Mendes, it's crazy. Like to, think, that a guitar has changed how people play and how people interpret the guitar in such a short time period. I really can't think of anybody like in, really in recent times, that's kind of done that.
And John took a lot of pride in that.
Yep.
There's a couple quotes of him saying like, I don't care if someone don't like my music, but they say my Strat is really good, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Something like that. He was proud of his signature Strat.
100%.
I think you know what? I got one question here. It's kind of bringing us back from kind of closing out. Didn't John play an Olympic white prototype or something like that at the Toronto Mod Club?
He played an
Journey
Olympic
never ends.
fight,
Yeah.
we don't know, but I don't have any.
So we
I
can
don't
we
know
can
if
look at
it's
it, but
a
the thing, Justin, too,
proto
is
or
he had the vintage hardtail 61 Olympic white that he
Oh,
played
yeah.
often,
And the Rolling
yeah.
Stones,
which I
right?
think probably inspired the Olympic white Mayor Sig. But he played that live like something like Olivia on the Ellen show. So
Well,
you can
I'm talking about year like 2005, like early
possibly.
on.
Well,
I'm
let's look at the photos. Let's look at the bridge because
Yeah.
you can tell if
The
it's his
mod,
hardtail 61 and the
Justin,
string tree.
are you talking about the Mod Club in Toronto?
I'm trying to remember. I'm bringing it up
There's
now.
there's a show back. It was even before the release of Continuum. Continuum wasn't released yet, and and that club recently closed, and
Yeah,
that's a
very
shame.
sad.
And it was a small club, and they played most of Continuum, and he mostly played an Olympic white John
Mm.
Mayer signature. No idea if that was a prototype or
Could have
it
been like a
was a
production
production
sample, just like a
model.
final. Yeah.
Yeah, probably, but almost all the show was done with that guitar.
Yeah,
And
that's for sure the one I'm thinking of. It sparked my mind now that was forgetting if that one was a production one or if that one was something yeah, if that was either production or if that was another prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just something that on the top of my head kind of occurred because obviously I own an Olympic white, so that's
and
something
to be
that,
honest, that might be the only time I remember him playing the Olympic
yeah.
white. So the journey never ends.
Yeah,
Never
it really
ends.
does.
I'm sure there's actually probably more interesting things out there
Oh, yeah.
that we haven't
Like we
found.
said with the mist, what we don't actually know.
Yeah.
That can be for theories in another time.
Yeah, this has been so much fun, like diving into this. Like it's been such a great. It feels like it's been a great episode. Like I think we talked about a lot. Like, a lot of stuff was revealed, and hopefully this helps people kind of find out a lot more. That maybe they didn't know. About what really went on with these guitars.
And like you say, now these are collector's pieces. You can't get them
Yeah.
anymore. And hardcore Mayer fans, whether or not it's a sound he uses now or something he plays, if you're a diehard Mayer fan, these are kind of a guitar that, for a collection's sake, is something that a lot of people are starting to really desire now, even as Mayer's just becoming bigger and bigger. There's the Silver Sky, of course, and the Super Eagle, but this is the first signature
The first
piece
step.
of gear of his. Exactly.
Yeah.
So and like I said, I love them. We all have fond feelings towards these guitars. Tommy,
100%.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
all the legwork you did on that.
Yeah,
That was
thank you.
incredible.
Tommy's research was amazing for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He blew everyone's mind. Insane.
No problem, guys. This is fun stuff to do. It's more fun than my day job to just dive into Getty images and try to find weird things with guitars John has played over the years.
Well, again, Tommy, Alejandro, Chandler, thank you guys so much for hopping on today and getting this episode done. I think it's going to be an incredible one, and I really appreciate you guys taking time out of all your busy days and lives and coming on and just chatting about gear. It's a good way to spend
Happy
an
to be here.
afternoon.
Right.
Thank
for
you.
sure. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks
everyone.
for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week on the John Mayer Gear Lounge show. Take care, everyone. Until then, goodbye.